Ladies, gentlemen, very welcome to the Florence School online debate. What's the topic of the day? Seamless operation of electricity system in Europe. A bit hard to swallow. Huh? Let's take an example. If you take a plane in Lisbon, Portugal, to go to Helsinki, Finland, you do not expect to be checked at each border and to be asked to take a different plane. Seamless operation. If you take your car from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, going to Prague, Czech Republic, you expect the same car to be authorized to run in each country crossed with the same driver, yourself. Why should it be different for electricity? Why shouldn't we get a seamless electricity system in Europe? Maybe you will think, well, Jean-Michel, of course, with a car in a plane, it's easy, but electricity, it's more difficult. But if something is difficult in Europe, we shouldn't do. Do you know that the Prime Minister in India, the Prime Minister, the federal one for the whole India, did call his compatriots to stop using cash to pay? To stop using cash. How could they pay? With credit cards? No, with their phones. The Prime Minister in India is calling Indians to stop using cash and to use phones and apps to pay. So we are in 21st century. We have to do new things in new ways. That's the debate. To debate, we have experts. And of course, not only experts for Florence School, because it will be too easy to debate. So we have external experts. The big one this morning is Laurent Schmitt, a compatriot. I will say Laurent, not to make confusion for people speaking continental English. For people speaking real English, I'm sorry, I'm French, I cannot. So Laurent is Secretary General at ENTSO-E. ENTSO-E is a European body, so it's a European institution for technical expertise in electricity transmission. Laurent is also himself expert in smart grids, smartification of industry. He did recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, issue a book about it, and he's fond of what is a big challenge for all of us Europeans, the fourth industrial revolution, digitalization of everything to make it better, to make it simpler, cheaper. We have also a big expert on the Florence School side, Jorge Vasconcelos. Jorge is a former Portuguese regulator for energy. He's also founding father of Florence School, founding father of Florence Forum for European Electricity Regulation, and also founding father of CER, the European Gathering of Energy Regulators. And the youngest of us is Nico Lo Rossetto, my deputy for electricity policy. How will we debate? Very simple. At Florence School, we did identify 3 missing pillars, 2 roadblocks. 3 missing pillars: coordination, sharing costs and benefits, and solidarity beyond costs and benefits. 2 roadblocks: redispatching action and capacity adequacy and crisis management. We will discuss these 5 items one by one. Each time I will ask Laurent to react. And of course, Laurent can frankly disagree with everything. We are not the technical experts of the European Union, he is. And at the end of this 5 items discussion, I will open the floor to the audience. You are much more than 100 people connected, which is a fantastic opening of democracy with the new industrial revolution we have. I do not promise that each of you will frame the debate. You are more than 100. But I promise I will do, and I promise that I will pick the max of remarks and comments you will have. We have this online debate only for you, the audience, not for us. It's really to open the debate with the European audience, and even if you are not European, to the audience. I would like also to say a word for Daniel Dobeni, another non-France school expert who should have been with us this morning, but Daniel has been unfortunately touched by a big health accident in his family. We are very sorry for him, and we would like to express to Daniel our deepest hurt feelings for him and his family in his sad day for him. Second thing, I would like to say before starting, what we are doing this morning, this online debate, is only an aperitivo, a starter, because the big debate will be face-to-face next week in Brussels, in the CER premises Cours Saint-Michel at 11 a.m., and we will get two new debaters external to France School. Ben van Horst. Ben is Chief Operating Officer in a real company for power transmission, TenneT, and TenneT is working both in the Netherlands and in Germany with a subsidiary. So Ben really knows what it is to transmit electricity cross-border. And we will also get with us Florian Ermacora. Florian Ermacora is one of the people at European Commission responsible for the winter package. And so it will be fantastic to have both of them joining us next week, 11 a.m., CER premise Cours Saint-Michel. It's open to everyone. You only have to register to be able to enter, but it's free of any charge. So today, the aperitivo. I'm starting. Georges, at France School, with your help, we did identify three missing pillars. First one, coordination. But I'm sorry, Georges, what does it mean, coordination for system operation, and why is it a missing pillar? Georges.
Yes, good morning to everybody. As you said, we have identified three aspects that have prevented us from being where we were supposed to be according to the internal market project. The three are in fact related, but for analytical purposes, we have separated them. So the first one is coordination, and coordination means different things and can be seen in different contexts. But in this process of building an internal market, it was and it is particularly important in two respects. On the one hand, the coordination of system operation between the different national system operators. On the other hand, the coordination of the economic transactions taking place in the different energy markets, electricity markets in particular. And then, of course, a third layer of coordination, which means coordination between the technical operation of the physical system and the economic coordination or the market coordination. So these are the three levels of coordination that we analyze in that report.
Thank you, Georges. Laurent, coordination, is it a pillar
first of all, thank you,
electricity system operation? And is it missing?
To your web conference, I would like to give, of course, a few input to that debate with a small caveat is that I've only been in my position for 4 months, and obviously I'm the technical expert in that group, but I don't know yet all the technicality of everything, but I'll try to summarize at best what I come to learn from my historical experience into coupling markets in Europe, but also internationally in the US and in Asia, plus what I learned recently, particularly in the context of the clean energy package next discussion. And I think your thinking is very appropriate into the broad perspective of the discussion which we have around the clean energy package. So overall, we agree with your overall conclusion, and we think that we definitely need to go further into regional cooperation, acknowledging that there is already some existing efforts in that space, particularly initiated from the TSO side. And what we think are very important is three pillars. First is establishing the right policy region at a political level to share views on renewable energy integration, energy mix, but also discuss on what kind of agreement to have on relocation of congestion, redispatch costs, social welfare, and cost of certain remedial action. I think that's a very important element, is the political cooperation at the regional level. The second step, which we think is important, is similarly a regulatory cooperation at this regional level in making sure we have the right decision process to agree on short, medium, and long-term strategy and to manage the market integration roadblock at the regional level, and especially the complexity of allocating scarce capacity resources. And the last, of course, and I think we fully take this on board on the TSO side and ENTSO-E, is that we recognize we need to continue our journey on regional cooperation, saying that we have already done a lot of work, and that's why I think our system continue to be live during even emergency conditions. But we want to go more, and we have now established in our network code a new system operation guideline which wants to implement 5 more functions. And we are ready to do more in the context of the clean energy package in developing new RS regional security coordination functions as what is required between now and 2025, recognizing that the system in 2025 is going to be significantly different from now, and we need to leave a bit of space in being able to adapt our new functions to what we see happening into the technical infrastructure side. That's, in a nutshell, what we think is important in terms of pillars.
Very interesting, Laurent. I will rephrase what I did understand from your comments. You are fundamentally saying, okay, guys, we are the technical experts from the EU. We are not responsible for everything in the EU. We are not responsible for missing political cooperation, and we would like seeing more political cooperation, I assume, between countries. And you are saying also we would like to see more regulatory cooperation, I assume, between energy regulators. And we technical guys, okay, we agree that we can do more, and we are doing more on the technical side. But please, political side and regulatory side, do your job, because we are not political or regulatory experts. That's the way I understand. If you disagree with me, you will say later, because we are jumping on the second pillar. Georges, sharing costs and benefits. What do you mean by sharing costs and benefits, and why is it a missing pillar?
Very good. Maybe I would start with a remark concerning Laurent's introductory remarks about regional markets. And whenever we have a physically interconnected system, any separation of areas of this interconnected system, of regions of that system, are conventional. They do not correspond necessarily to the physics, to the underlying physics. And this is important when we talk about sharing, because if we have as a goal a single well-functioning market, and we started 20 years ago with a fragmented nationally based structure, interconnected for some specific purposes, but not for generalized electricity trade throughout Europe, then of course we have here a transition process, what they call the first transition, electricity transition in Europe, the second one being now the transition to decarbonization and digitalization. In this first transition, starting from an inadequate infrastructure, trying to move towards an integrated and efficient single European market, there were and there are questions about how to share the benefits and the costs of adapting that infrastructure to our goal. And these questions, as we show in some detailed analysis, have been in many cases, not properly addressed. And in many cases, no answer at all was given to some basic questions, on the assumption that they were very basic questions that the markets themselves would solve, and therefore there was no need for a regulatory or a legislative intervention. Now, what we see today is that neither the market nor the legislator have provided appropriate answers to some of these basic questions. This has created huge inefficiencies in the first transition process. In some cases, it has prevented us from reaching our goal of an integrated, efficient single market. And it also has created or consolidated unfair situations. Because, of course, not addressing the sharing issue does not mean that there is not sharing going on. We are sharing the costs and benefits, but we are sharing it in an implicit way, which usually is a very unfair and very inefficient way. So what we try to show with this analysis is how this has been an inconvenience in the first transition. And our strong recommendation is that we address explicitly these questions also, not only to complete the first transition, but also in the second transition. Because we are looking into the past in order to try to avoid the same mistakes in the future and to have a more efficient second transition. And this is then analyzed with some specific cases, and we look at the sharing question, in particular, in some critical points like the capacity and security of supply issue, which is extensively handled in chapter 3.2. Yeah.
Okay. So what you say, George, I understand in economic theory. In economic theory, we say that if we do not take care of costs and benefits, we lose the incentives for driving human action. And this should be true everywhere. It seems so simple and obvious that it's strange that this is missing at European level. Laurent, is really something missing for cost sharing and benefit sharing at the European level for operation of the grid?
Of what we need to improve. What I want to say is that we are not, I would say, starting from scratch, and in the same time, we should also recognize the fact that there are some few things which have been already done to improve market integration. Flow-based on day-ahead at continental Europe is a good example of already what has been done and achieved in terms of optimization. And I think this is a long journey, and for sure, every step of the journey is one layer more of optimization. And I think what your report indicates are basically further improvement to be made, and which will trigger, I think, as what I mentioned, further need for regional cooperation, particularly, I think, on the political and regulatory side, given the fact that the regional security coordination has been historically existing on the TSO side, even, I would say, before the entire Europe was created. So I think in the electricity side, there is a lot which has already been done for managing coordination of the technical aspect. I think now what we need is further cooperation for doing further improvement into market integration, as what we just heard. That's very important, and the example which you take are very interesting from that perspective.
Laurent and George, I cannot disagree with both of you, and I will give you my own comment. My own comment is that globally, what we have in Europe is the best system on earth globally. If you compare to the whole US, the whole Canada, even the whole Brazil, the whole Russia, the whole China, and the whole India. But I also agree that we can do better because we're in the 21st. So many things being so difficult in the past will become possible. But each time we will need to use cost evaluation and sharing of benefits to have people joining, to have people converging for operation. And this I fully agree. It's a big challenge, but we are 21st. Huh? The number of challenges we will have in the 21st that we didn't have before. Think of decarbonization. Huh? We will have to decarbonize at the world level. How will we do? So we Europeans, let's go ahead. But now the third one, the third missing pillar, solidarity. How will you define solidarity, Georges? Solidarity is a word everybody is using in any circumstances. Most of the time, it doesn't mean anything clear. Where is solidarity missing? Beyond costs and benefits. Let's forget cost and benefit. So could you explain us and show us why is this so important in Europe for electricity system operation? Georges.
Yes, you are right. Solidarity is missing in operational terms. It's stated in several documents, but it's mainly an empty shell. It's very important both in the short term and in the long term, in terms of coordination of available resources for emergency situations where the market mechanisms in place cannot provide the kind of answers that are necessary to keep the lights on, and it's necessary in the long-term perspective to make the best possible use of our common resources. And although in gas there has been some interesting progress in the implementation of this concept of solidarity, in electricity this is not as obvious. And although we keep the lights on, and the TSOs have been able to keep the lights on thanks to a very effective cooperation, very often this cooperation is still a legacy of the past, is still very informal, and it is not matched with appropriate written rules in our directives and regulations. The network codes are trying now to overcome this deficit of procedural definition of solidarity, but we are still very far from there. And as the January 2017 events that are described in the introduction to the report clearly show, this is a critical topic. It's not as much a matter of efficiency and fairness as in the first and second cases of coordination and sharing. Here it is more about reliability, integrity of the system, and quality of the service being provided to customers.
And Georges, speaking from Lisbon, should have reminded us that solidarity is in the Lisbon Treaty. So since Lisbon, the empty shell is in the European Constitution.
Okay, so once again,
Laurent, up to you now. Solidarity.
I disagree on the fact that nothing has been done. I think there are things which have been done, and the fact that we have our European system withstanding basically constraints which are getting more and more difficult to manage in terms of scenarios of extreme temperatures, impact of climate change, and so on, without having major disruption. And I think we saw this again during the winter, is a proof that some processes are in place to manage these critical situations, which I would like to remind is a matter of states and not a matter of a European level jurisdiction. So security of supply is really in the mandate of the state jurisdiction, and here at ENTSO-E we have more a role as facilitating, coordinating, but the leading role is in the end of the TSO, and I think the TSO through their regional cooperation once again are doing their daily work on facilitating that. Now, in that context, I think we cannot neglect the fact that once again it can probably be further optimized. It can probably basically be more documented in a way, and I think some of these rules remain, I would say, best practices. I would call it that way. But I think we should be careful here of not over-regulating these elements, because here we touch on the processes which are very much real-time and very much dependent on how fast we can speed up and take efficient decisions. And I think that has to go in a direction where a single entity has to be in charge, has to be in power, and we believe that this entity should be the TSO itself. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the subject of major disagreement we have currently with the winter package around ROCs and around the fact that this role of managing security coordination and security operation should remain in our setup under the hands of the TSO. And I would like to highlight the fact that the TSO are doing their work, and we went successfully through our winter condition again this year, and I hope it's going to continue, and that's a proof of that situation.
So here, the audience, you see more than a nuance between the France School report and the ENTSO-E expertise. On the France School side, we see that more European approach should be useful and is needed. And on the European technical expertise side, that it's better done with the existing bodies, the existing companies, the existing operational centers being the national TSOs. But this we will rediscuss in the general discussion following what the audience is saying. Now we will jump to the two roadblocks. Their cases to illustrate what it means to have missing pillars and how we can go ahead by improving the situation, the policy. We will go with Nicolo. We will have to shorten a bit the interactions between the panel, because I see that we are going to cross 11:30 and I would like the audience to enter. So Nicolo, could you explain us in 1 minute what does it mean that remedial actions, which is a word nobody understands, that remedial actions are roadblocks?
I will try to be short. Basically, it means that electricity doesn't stop at the borders of the control area of a single TSO. And so if a TSO wants to relieve a congestion on an element of its grid by redispatching some of the power plants in its own control areas, well, his decision to redispatch can obviously have an influence on the power flows in the neighboring grids, and so it can impact what the situation of the other faced by the other TSOs. Or alternatively, we can say even another way. It could be easier and cheaper eventually to relieve the congestion inside a control area of TSO, let's say A, by implementing a redispatching action not in this control area, but in another one. And so we need coordination and cooperation of the TSOs to manage in the best way remedial actions and to relieve congestion that can have several origins. For instance, the intermittent renewables generation, the cross-border trade in electricity. So coordination is necessary. But of course, if we need to coordinate and we need cooperation among TSOs, well, we need also to share the cost and the benefits of such coordinated actions. And here...
Well, it's very easy to catch. It's very easy to catch, Nicolo. Even if we do not know anything with electricity flows, myself, I'm coming from philosophy and literature. I can understand it in 1 minute. We have congestions. and we have different people being able to do something in this country or that country, it's better for them to coordinate. They also need to agree on the costs and the benefits. For me, it's easy to understand. But is it intellectual or true in practice? This, Laurent will tell us. In practice, is it true?
The question is a good question. I think that fundamentally asks the question of what should be the market design for the future of Europe. And I think there are various elements of it. One is for sure how to minimize the amount of congestion redispatch. That's obviously one element. How to facilitate this also into the intraday and balancing process. I think what we see is we see larger amount of renewable at close to zero marginal cost. Obviously, there is more and more volume which gets traded into this process, which are also processed closer to the real-time dispatch. And I think here we agree that basically the CACM, congestion allocation, capacity allocation and congestion management as a process in the new network code is going to be a very important vehicle for together thinking on the future of that market design, in which the bidding zone reviews, regular bidding zone reviews are important element to be considered on the rethinking potentially on the current European zones. And I would like to insist here that there are already existing zones which are primarily zones around country boundaries, apart from certain countries like Nordics or Italy, which have decided to split themselves into a further refined granularity. So definitely there is a big elephant in the room here, which is how to rethink these elements and take, of course, associated to that, how to manage the associated congestion redispatch costs, not only in a single countries, but at a regional level. So that's fundamentally a true question, and I think that's a question which we need to resolve at a European level between now and 2025, 2030, if we really want to get our grids, I would say, invaded by renewable energy as what we see moving in the next trends. And that's a very important first roadblock. The second roadblock, which you mentioned on remedial action, and I think the more related to managing emergency situation, I think here coming. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I was not sure whether
this we will see in a minute, Laurent, with your permission. I will come back to Nicolo, and we will enter the second in a minute. But okay. So, Nicolo, you are the youngest, but you are able to see elephant in a room, which is good. And it's a joke among us because 1 week ago we had the Policy Advisory Council at Florence School, and also Georges did see many elephants into the room. So it seems that we still have elephants in rooms. Georges, I'm skipping your right to speak because time is running. I'm coming back to Nicolo. Nicolo, we did catch your first one, remedial actions. You were meaning cross-border congestion management. Well, not so difficult to catch. But now, capacity adequacy and crisis management.
Again, this is a roadblock in our view because in the last few years, there is a growing fear that our electricity system will not be adequate to support, to cope with demand in the future, and to manage shortages, both in the short term and in the long term. And so several member states are trying to implement autonomously policies that try to address this issue of capacity adequacy on the long term and crisis management in the short term. However, since our electricity grids are more and more interconnected, since our trading electricity is more and more cross-border, well, to do such policies in isolation, to think and to develop such policies in isolation doesn't make much sense because interdependency is the new reality of our system. And so we need coordination to assess the situation and eventually develop these policies together, considering the sources available in the neighboring systems. we need a way to share the costs and the benefits of these policies, especially when there is a shortage of capacity affecting a country. And then, as some of you mentioned before, if there is a general crisis, shortages affecting several countries at the same time, well, solidarity makes much sense, because the normal rules, market rules, do not work really well. And basically, we don't have to look just at cost and benefit responsibility, but we need to show solidarity, and that's what a member of an ever closer union should show.
Okay, so you are roughly saying the same. You are saying that if we want to have open borders, as we do not want to have borders between European countries, adequacy of capacity is an open question, so we have to coordinate because the question is open. Of course, if the question is open, we have to also to look at costs and benefits, because whom will benefit, who will support the costs. And even if there is a crisis, if the crisis is only one country, we may think that this country has the right to buy in other countries, to shop, but to pay the price, because. But if the crisis is wider, if the crisis is touching several countries, we should forget the costs and the benefits. We should first stop the crisis, and this is solidarity. Well, it speaks to me, but is it realistic? Because you and me, Niccolo, we are intellectuals, so we speak, we produce blah blah, but it doesn't tell if it is true, feasible, or real. Laurent.
Cold spell, and I think some action have been taken after the markets for that cold spell, and there are several reports being analyzed and produced now. And it's obvious that the right action have been taken to maintain the system live. And again, it's a matter of doing improvement on these actions. But I think these did work. And I would like to highlight here that in the future, the digital agenda of TSOs and ENTSO-E is going to play a role here. Because on one hand, I said TSO should keep the leads into managing controls through this real time. But in the same time, they should make calculation out of shared information across the entire TSOs. And that's one of the key investment which we do with the common grid model at European scale, so that everyone through real time can take decision out of a common set of data, and that's very important. I think we also agree on the fact that adequacy assessment cannot be looked only through the perspective of countries, even though security of supply is a country matter, and I think the country element is an input, obviously, into that process. And that's why we already mentioned several times that we welcome, I think, the proposal which is in the winter package around ENTSO-E playing a role of facilitating regional adequacy assessments and risk preparedness, and basically facilitating a dialogue between certain regions and countries, and aligning assumptions across various strategy on energy mix and remedial actions and so on through that process. I think ENTSO-E already does that similar calculation in the context of TYNDP for network expansion. And I think it's quite a natural way of expanding our role together with our members and TSOs. And we hope to have, I would say, as what I was saying is the introduction, the right policy regions and regulators in the regions to organize this dialogue so that we have capacity markets which form up, which truly favor regional participation into the capacity markets in the future. I think that's very important if we want the European system to be optimized at a regional level and not only at a country level.
So what I understand from what you said, Laurent, but maybe I'm wrong, is that many things have been done. It's not true that nothing has been done, but it's nevertheless true that we can do more. But I'm trying to understand what you said. It's not necessarily what I think myself, but to do more, is it at European level? Is it realistic? or is it at regional level? And if it is at regional level, we have to build this regional level. So how to build it, etc., etc. That's the way I catch it. I would like to go to the audience, and I would like to wake up the audience, because you did call very few questions. So if you want to participate, if you want the debate to become your debate, you have to shake us up, audience. You are shaking up. Pam, 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 pam. So I give you 1 minute more, audience, to intervene. And in this 1 minute, I will ask Georges to do what I did prohibit him to do. As a former regulator, Georges, these roadblocks, are they really consequential? And do we have a manner of unblocking these roadblocks? Georges, 1 minute and a half.
Yes, I think we all had the feeling before this report that there are many roadblocks that do not result from objective technical impossibilities or difficulties, but resulted from a lack of will to really address these questions. Not only the policy decision makers, also industry decision makers, also academics, we all are responsible for having avoided for a long period some difficult questions that sometimes we try to convince ourselves were so simple, so basic that we should not lose our time, spend our time addressing them. On the contrary, these very basic questions have proved to be the strongest roadblocks towards an efficient and fair integration of our markets. Of course, we have achieved a lot. We have many success stories to tell, but nevertheless, these open questions remain there, and they need to be addressed. And in particular, this leads to the need to clarity regarding the roles of the different actors. Because very often we know how to solve the problems, we know how to handle things, but we don't have a clear responsibility for who is doing what, who should do what, who then takes the final decision. And when we're talking about physical interconnected systems, then we have to achieve a difficult balance here, because on the one hand, as Laurent was saying, we have to respect the rights of the member states to define their energy mix and to define their own ideas about security of supply. But on the other hand, in a physically, and I underline physically interconnected system, you cannot define reliability on a national basis alone. You have to take into account the whole interconnected system. And again, any cuts that you do in the interconnected system, be it the national borders or any other borders, are conventional things. Because from the physical point of view, what we have is a fully interconnected system where phenomena propagate at the speed of light. So we should address these questions. That's what I think. And then, as an answer to these basic questions, we should come out with clear roles, and then have a clear idea about what the member states are supposed to do, what the regulators are supposed to do on a national basis and also at the European level, what the TSOs are supposed to do at the national level and together collectively at the European level, the market operators, and so on and so forth. And this clarity is still missing, and what we see is very often a kind of contradictory process. If we take this last issue of security, obviously the work that is embedded already in the 10 years development plan could have been pushed much farther. And we could have already today harmonized methodologies to assess security of supply from an integrated European perspective. But we don't have yet these methodologies accepted by everybody and implemented everywhere. And then what we see is that instead of the legislator giving precise instructions and defining clearly the roles of the different actors, we see, for instance, decisions coming from DG Competition with another mindset and going in sometimes in a direction that ignores the physical reality of this interconnected system. So there is a need for a dialogue between, not only between the TSOs and the regulators, but also between the legislators and the competition authorities, between the market agents and the regulators.
Okay, George, we have to go to the audience because the audience is waking up. So from Rouen or Juan, depending the country, solidarity is in the very basis of the power system, because if a generator trips, all the system will react, even up to Tunisia or Turkey. And we cannot do much more because the transmission system is limited by itself. What do you think of this remark? Any one of you? If you do not react, I have another one. Solidarity can be so differently. Well, please do.
Yes, one thing is to have an interconnected system where these things happen automatically in many situations. Another thing is to have rules that allow the operators to influence the behavior of the system in a desired way. And what we are missing are some of those rules ex ante that clearly define who should do what under certain circumstances. So we're not here letting the interconnected system to drive alone. We cannot also apply the rules that we had 20 years ago before liberalization. We have to apply new rules, and these new rules have not yet been completely
network codes, and the next one which are to be brought, and they are in the all these technicality of managing the grid connection. But in the same time, I think we can still improve, especially the cost of remedial action and how these costs are shared across various countries. I think getting more transparency onto that could maybe in the future facilitate. But in a nutshell, I would say that there is already a lot of solidarity carried out by the network code and by the TSO in their day-to-day work. And I think it's unfair to say there is no solidarity at all in place right now.
It's up to me to decide because we have something else on solidarity. So this something else being the following. You forget that solidarity is also solidarity with vulnerable and energy poor. How to have something European with vulnerable and energy poor? Do you envisage a minimum European consumption free? And how could it be implemented, such a decision?
Well, if I may, in the report, we don't really address the issue of energy poverty per se, but we consider the vulnerable customers during this situation of multilateral shortage of capacity. We say that when electricity is missing due to a crisis, like for instance in the last winter cold spell, residential households, small firms like a little office or whatever, they should be helped first because they don't have a possibility to switch easily to another source of energy, like maybe a bigger industrial company. And so this kind of solidarity should apply during this crisis. TSO should, from our point of view, try to share the scarce resources available to first help and satisfy the energy needs of these vulnerable customers. And later, if there is...
Okay, I understand your point, Nicolo. We will have a common European action for the vulnerables at times of large crisis. And in day-to-day life, it's up to each country to decide and to express solidarity among citizens. We have something else from Björn. Björn says, okay, from school, but we already have CACM, we have a grid code for remedial action. So what do you want to add to the CACM? Nicolo, what do you want to add to the CACM?
We don't want, when, as George said, we don't provide in the report detailed rules or recommendations. But we would like to highlight some tasks, some responsibilities that must be defined and addressed first. And for instance, and I agree with Laurent, it's not just a matter of TSOs. Member states, national regulatory authorities shall first agree on a general framework for working principles for sharing the costs and the benefits. If this is missing because member states, both governments or national regulatory authorities do not agree on such a framework on how to identify and share the cost, then of course technical decisions like the one in the network code will never be enough to solve the problem. This is what we wanted to highlight in
it's a very
research.
fundamental comment here, and I think
Georges, Laurent,
in the new network code in CACM is a lot of methodology, calculation having to be produced, and that's requiring basically much more data, much more tools. But I think the TSO community and NSOE, we can cope with that. But very often we miss basically the sufficient regional collaboration on the political side to get it implemented in terms of decision of basically redistributing social welfare, reallocating congestion redispatch costs, and so on. These are very complex economical decisions to be taken, and I think we need to start preparing ourselves for setting up the right dialogue at political and regulatory level to make this happen. And I think the bidding zone study is an example. Is the next step will be how to get it implemented into the political environment if it's proven to be the right decision.
Gianluigi, Bernd, and Eric are questioning allocation of costs. What is the methodology to allocate costs? Should it be European or regional? And should it go up to review the bidding zones? The three of you, Nicolo, Georges, Laurent, who wants to say something?
Well, it's not easy to review the bidding zone because, as we see, the process is taking long. But we definitely need to do something about that because bidding zones that do not reflect structural congestions in the end provide wrong incentives to market operators. And so in the end, we create a need for TSOs to intervene later to ensure the compatibility between market transactions, the market outcome, and the power flow that the grid can allocate. And so we need maybe not to go to nodal pricing, but to have bidding zones that do not hide internal structural congestion.
Maybe I could add on negatively because we are right now in charge of implementing the first bidding zone calculation as part of the pilot project, which was initiating around Germany and the neighbor countries. So first of all, we are in the middle of running that calculation, and we see the calculation itself is not an easy calculation to do because you have to deal with a lot of assumptions in terms of amount of renewable mix which get connected on mid to long term, how much grid capacity you will be able to put on board, through that period and so on. But I think we will get through conclusion which are much clearer and sharper within mid next year, and I think that will be an interesting base for rethinking some of these questions. And I think what I find interesting in that analysis is that we start to think without looking at country boundary first, but looking truly at boundary which kind of reflect congestions. And I think that's an interesting starting point. On how to use, how to do best calculation, I think obviously nodal price is not the way forward in Europe, and I think we have developed other concepts which are more flow-based. Having said that, I think nodal price calculation in terms of cost could be, I would say, an input for TSO to form up their ideas on the optimal zones. I think that's something which is interesting to explore. And once again, I would like to connect back with our digital agenda here and all the effort which we do onto the common grid model, onto improving calculation. I think we should not ignore all the benefit of the IT world coming with much more heavy high computing performance calculation, which will help in the future in doing refined optimization. I think that's a journey that's not going to be resolved in 1 year, but we need to have a roadmap to take best advantage of what comes on the market on the digital side.
Here, Laurent, you get a golden Jean-Michel's award of the morning, because I do agree with you. Huh? We have to take advantage of the new technologies, the new ways of working. I know it's a big challenge, it's very demanding, but we have to do. We have to do, and we have to show to our compatriots, the Europeans at large, that we are embarked in something new, but something which will deliver
as much value or even much more value than what we usually hear about smart grid, smart meter, and so on. If you do the calculation, that really brings potential benefits to the society at large, which are significant.
Yeah. And we will have the same. I will be frank, it's not the debate, but I do not care. I am French, so the law is not something I obey every minute. We will have the same with health. All of us, we should voluntarily be connected to huge database, big database. And all of us, we should be suggested that maybe we have this, which is not so nice, and maybe it is because of that, and it will help us a lot to improve our life and to live safer, longer. And safer means also to enjoy life. Huh? You have people being 85, 88, enjoying, doing wonderful things, and this we can do with better use of individual data and collective data through smart algorithms. This said, I would like to, not to conclude, but to offer you a conclusion coming from Gianluigi, Lucilla, and Eric. Too late, Takis and Gianluigi are adding things, but too late, I cannot take into account. So, Gianluigi, Bernd, Eric, will we act more at the national level, at the European level, or at the European level for system operation, and why? Could you conclude on this? Less than 1 minute, really a crude statement.
National level,
Laurent,
security of supply,
and then Nicolo and George, and we will stop.
There will not be further data coordination needs, but security of supply, national level. Regional level, market integration, market clearing, market optimization, not only between TSOs cross-border, but also TSOs and DSOs. Very important. How to make sure we ensure proper coupling of markets between TSOs and DSO. So basically what we see, this will be multi-layer optimization, which are going to start pan-European down to regional and national. And I think the key is to find the right architecture. We are preparing a new IT roadmap in ENTSO-E to precisely deal with that with our members. So I think that we should not look for a single level. It's a matter of getting the 3 levels working in real time well together.
Thank you. Georges, one word. Not even a sentence, a word.
Thank you.
I love you, George. And Nicolo, one word.
It's multi-layer, but I think with a more and more shift to a regional and European level, because the governance should follow the reality, the flows across borders.
That's it, gentlemen. I will conclude, and before concluding, I remind you that all the audience and all your friends, all your relatives, you are invited next week, the 11th of May, in the premise of CIER Cours Saint-Michel at 11 a.m. for a face-to-face debate with 2 more experts. A chief operating officer for a cross-border TSO, Ben Verhorst, and one of the brains of the winter package, Florian Hermacora. And the conclusion? But the conclusion is usually academia thinks that it knows everything and it has to issue orders to the real world. I would like to conclude the opposite. I would like to say that academia has ways of thinking, reasoning, building reasoning, but academia does not have to issue any order to anyone. We have many, many experts being not from academia. You have seen this morning Laurent as technical expert, but you have seen also Georges also from the world of practice. What Florence School aims to do is not to issue a roadmap, is to put a frame in which we can discuss while agreeing that there is many ways of being European, there is many ways of building a better Europe, and that's it. And maybe we can have a common frame to have a common discussion. This said, I wish the best to all Europeans, and as I am French, I hope that the French next Sunday won't be foolish enough to destroy the future of their country and to destroy the future of Europe. Alleluia, long life to the French and the Europeans. Many thanks to Laurent and George.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.